We're partners with our dogs. Our dogs have these amazing skills. They've gone through training and certification. We call all of our dogs our staff members in our district. They have their degrees that they come in with to support their role. But each individual dog also, I think, has their own unique skill set, just like staff members, human staff members in our building. But the guiding that we're able to do is not only be the advocate for the dog to make sure that they feel safe in the interaction, support their environment as well, but also sometimes to let the dog take the lead, knowing that our dogs have these amazing abilities to show empathy and understand human emotion. I think a lot of the times as providers, we can kind of sit back and support the interaction, but let the dog guide that and have that authentic interaction with students.
Magic happens when therapy dogs help educators reach out to students who are struggling. DCSD's pioneering animal-assisted interventions team is the largest and most advanced in Colorado. It has 34 therapy dogs deployed all over the school district, with more preparing to join their ranks. Welcome to DCSD Notebook. I'm your host, Communication Director Jason Hackett, and in this episode, we'll hear from some of the top innovators who established the Animal-Assisted Intervention program and learn how specially trained four-legged friends provide gentle, empathetic, tail-wagging support that keeps students in school, opening their hearts and then their minds to overcome many kinds of difficulties. Our guests explain the research that supports their work, including close ties to the University of Denver's experts in human-animal connections, as well as a commitment to ethical support of therapy dogs and their interactions with students. And if you stick around to the end, you'll hear a small sampling of the many stories illustrating just how powerful a dog-to-student connection can be. These are literally life-changing relationships that allow students to succeed when they otherwise might not. All right, we have got a really cool crew of people here that I'm excited to talk to, because what's really interesting about this one, we kind of set this one up with me not knowing a lot about what we're talking about. So I'm a complete blank slate with this one, and I'm excited about that. So we're going to let everybody introduce themselves, kind of what their title is and who they work with and where they work, and help you identify each of their voices as you're listening. So let's start here and we'll go clockwise.
Okay, I am Ellen Kirchhoff, Mental Health Team Lead. I support all our psychologists and social workers in the district, and I work closely with our mental health director, Stephanie Crawford, and our mental health coordinator, Bernadette Pigeon. And I do all kinds of things, but in today's context, I work with our animal-assisted interventions team to make sure that a lot of the, applications are processed and people are ready to go in their schools, and that we're just expanding and trying to make it the best program that we can.
And that's the other piece, I guess I better interject here. This is the one time when I'm really sad that we do not have a video podcast, because we've got two amazing, gorgeous dogs in here for our animal-assisted interventions. We've got Betty and Daphne, but we're going to talk more about them. But let's have Danny give us a little intro here.
Okay, my name is Danny Morrison. I am a school social worker, and I work at Plum Creek Academy and have worked here for this is my 10th school year here. Oh, and that is Betty's tail wagging. She is my therapy dog and has been my working partner since 2023, which is very exciting. But the population we serve here are kids that are all in special education, all with serious emotional disabilities, and we serve middle and high school students.
I'm Laura Wilson. I am a behavior specialist for the district, primarily serving the Ponderosa High School feeder area. I also get to support the Animal-Assisted Intervention program in our district, and it's been really exciting to see that grow over the past. Danny and I have been working on this for 10 years. 10, 11 years, I think we're at right now, and I get to partner with Daphne. I've been working with her for the past 5 years. She's the second therapy dog I've worked with, and have been able to see some amazing growth just within our program and the amazing impact these therapy dogs have within our system. So it's been really exciting to see.
That is amazing. So I guess the first question is, who can explain for me what animal-assisted intervention is? What does that program mean? And maybe as you're talking about it a little bit, what you did to put the program together then too.
Which is a long, fun story.
How much time do you?
Oh, we have all the time in the world.
It's beautiful.
Well, I think we can just kind of start with the fact, like, Laura and I met in graduate school at the University of Denver through their, like, animal-assisted social work program. And then stayed friends, but, like, reconnected when we both started working for the district. And Laura had already kind of started the process to get her dog, Duran, in the school. And then kind of as soon as I started working, she was like, I need your help. Like, let's go. And we've been writing policies and procedures since then. And I'm trying to think, but yeah, it's been a long process to get it to where we are today, but like a great one.
Yeah, and I mean, we can talk a lot about the details, and animal-assisted interventions are really that. We're utilizing and working and partnering with certified animals, dogs in this case, in the field of AAI. A lot of different animals are used, but within our district, we work with therapy dogs to support the social emotional well-being of staff and students. And we get to really see we just like to simply refer to it as magic, the magic that these certified dogs are able to provide to some of our highest need situations. And so these interventions can look anywhere with partnering with a mental health provider in a school building, like Danny does with Betty, working on students' social emotional goals within the context of maybe an IEP, and then also as a school-wide intervention, really just focusing on building a safe climate and culture for students and staff. That can really be a way that AAI can support across really the whole MTSS framework. So it's been exciting to see how it's not only an individual intervention, but can really support an entire building as a whole as well.
Lots of letters in there. Yes. Well, for people that aren't familiar, what is MTSS, and then how does that work within a school framework? And then how does that work with animal-assisted interventions as well?
A multi-tiered system of support is what MTSS stands for. And it's really looking at all the different tiers. We have tiers 1 through 3. We're looking at the school-wide basis of support that we give to all of our students in a building. And then it goes all the way to the very top, like 5% of 1% of students that need maybe something more individualized.
Like Plum Creek, all of our students would be that like top tier of support because they're at like a separate school environment.
Yeah. Ellen, would you add anything more? I don't know if I explained.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just a framework where we're trying to keep kids' needs met in the least restrictive environment, basically. All students get certain kinds of support. Then there may be students who continue to have some challenges, and then they might get some really targeted support to see if that takes care of their needs. And then sometimes it doesn't, and they need to go to tier 3, which often might be comprised of a special education evaluation or some other intervention that is very individualized to that particular child.
And how AAI, or animal-assisted intervention, really folds into that is how we can utilize and work alongside a dog to support, whether it be those individual roles or, like I had mentioned before, that climate and culture piece within that framework. So it's been exciting to see how we really can support that entire system.
Can you talk about then what specific roles having an animal there, what kinds of interventions are super helpful to have a dog there to help with? I mean, I would like to have a dog with me all the time, right? But to talk about the specifics of how this works in a school setting.
Yeah, I mean, so just like, I like to look forward. Betty comes like 2 days a week. And Laura really spoke on this, but like the climate and culture has just like so positively improved since we've had dogs in the building. She brings smiles to everybody's faces. The kids are always like very excited to see her. And just kind of individually, I have some kids that it really helps support like their social emotional just functioning. Betty's a coping tool for them. Like they know if they see her, it's going to be something that calms them down. It's going to be something that makes them happy. Like petting a dog literally releases oxytocin and dopamine in your brain, which are chemicals that make us feel good. And so it supports kids just in those daily like activities, just to make them happier on a daily basis.
And Danny's a perfect example of what it can look like in partnership with a mental health provider. We also have therapy dogs working alongside classroom teachers, and that can look like really supporting students' academic engagement. When you're observing that work, which we've been able to see these dogs in action in their classrooms, the engagement we have with these students just completing some tasks that can be really difficult for a lot of our students, having a therapy dog there to support them, to support that regulation, to support that engagement as well as just reinforcement for what we're doing has been really exciting to see within that classroom setting. We also have an administrative assistant, for example, in an elementary school, and she's part of a lot of students' reward systems, as well as being that first thing that students see when they walk through the door in the morning. That's the greeting they get. A happy tail wag of a golden retriever has never made anyone sad. And that's a great way that the students and the parents that drop their students off can start their day in their school building in such a positive, light way. And so those are just two examples. We have so many different roles. We have obviously our counselors, our mental health, which is sometimes the more expected partnership we have with our therapy dogs. But it's been great to see some of the other roles within our buildings. Like I had mentioned, that administrative assistant, teachers. We have occupational therapists, speech language, all these different roles that can really utilize this intervention in partnership with their role.
I think it also breaks down barriers really quickly and promotes connection and relationship. We have school resource officers with therapy dogs as well, which aren't necessarily like our particular program, but they are in our buildings with their dogs. And, when they're wearing a uniform, that really immediately helps jump over that barrier where there might be certain students or staff or families that haven't had great experiences with officers. Yeah. And it just makes a huge difference for them. So whether it's a crisis situation or whether it's something that's happening on a day-to-day basis, I think it really just makes things smoother and nicer for everybody.
That's kind of what I was thinking about. Like, there are so many different types of scenarios in a school setting where having a therapy dog can help so much. And I'll just go off the top of my head what I'm imagining, and if any of you want to fill in the actual real-life blanks on that.
Sure.
I'm thinking about a student who has some sort of trouble outside of school. Maybe the family life is not great, and the students coming to school just not in the right frame of mind, ready to learn. Is that one of those examples where a dog can help kind of get them? I think you use the word kind of regulated. Is that the right word?
Yep. Yeah, I think every single team I could speak for has an example of a student that was not connecting with school in some capacity, whether that be with the teachers or peers or whatever it is. I can think of many examples just within my personal work where I've been told, oh, that student's never going to meet with you. They just do not like school. They don't want anything to do with it. I, in partnering with the dog, have never had that problem of building that connection and rapport because the dog is that bridge. I think some students that maybe have some more distrusting feelings towards the school environment for whatever reason their background has brought in, like you'd mentioned, stuff that happens outside of school can really impact their school day. But if they have that one safe, consistent, unconditional, non-judgmental being that they can rely on, which a lot of our dogs are to our students, that can completely change the trajectory of how a student engages in their school day. We even have current research that says if a student has one positive connection in their life, that can completely change the path that they can go down, whether it be graduating high school, obtaining a job, all of those things that we're working towards with all of our students. And our dogs are able to provide that for a lot of our most difficult. So
I think the word non-judgmental is really important too. I think sometimes we have teachers or other providers who will use therapy dogs for something that's hard for the child. Like they might read to the dog where reading out loud in class might not be something that works well for them. It also is a really great way to teach social emotional skills and use the dog to sort of depersonalize. And this is how you interact. And eventually, hopefully, it generalizes to interacting with other people.
And just social skills in general, like reading body language, like picking up on their body language helps them be an advocate for the dogs. That's one of the things I'd love to have some of my kids who don't necessarily feel comfortable speaking up to is like learn Betty's body language. And then they're able to be like, well, Betty's not comfortable with this or she doesn't enjoy those loud noises. And it kind of helps them have some of that social awareness that they might not otherwise like have in themselves, but they're able to apply it to a dog. And then, like Ellen said, like generalize those skills.
Yeah. And then there's so many different opportunities then for the dog to just be kind of that gateway then to all kinds of different activities and behaviors and things. So do then you as the professionals help that along? What's the role of the humans with the dogs then?
We use the word, I think you've heard it, partnership. We're partners with our dogs. Our dogs have these amazing skills. They've gone through training and certification. We call all of our dogs our staff members in our district. They have their degrees that they come in with to support their role. But each individual dog also, I think, has their own unique skill set, just like staff members, human staff members in our building. But the guiding that we're able to do is not only be the advocate for the dog to make sure that they feel safe in the interaction, support their environment as well, but also sometimes to let the dog take the lead, knowing that our dogs have these amazing abilities to show empathy and understand human emotion. I think a lot of the times as providers, we can kind of sit back and support the interaction, but let the dog guide that and have that authentic interaction with students. So yes, we are there. We're at the other end of the leash. We're partnering. We're guiding a lot of it, but giving a lot of credit to just the instincts that our dogs bring into the situation as well.
And that was the piece you kind of touched on. That was another thing I wanted to ask about was the kinds of training that the dogs have to have, like the certification, and how do they become a professional therapy dog?
Yeah, everybody asks, like, my dog can do it. They love people, and that's the foundation, right? We want our dogs to love the interaction, love people, and that's a great place to start to see. And we always say we want the dog to choose the job. We want the dog to want to do the work. Otherwise, the intervention isn't going to work. It's not going to be positive. We use the phrase mutually beneficial. So it's starting with making sure the dog enjoys those interactions with humans. And then the training is a lot of socialization, having our dogs go out in a lot of different environments, experiencing different stimuli, interacting with lots of different people, those types of things. And then they have to display all of these different skills. Greeting with a complete stranger, having somebody pet that may not know the appropriate way to pet a dog. And are our dogs still enjoying this? Is this still benefiting them? Even just walking through a crowd, like we kind of simulate what it would look like walking through a high school passing period, because sometimes our dogs need to do that and they need to feel safe and comfortable in those situations as well. But the training really does look like how our dogs can kind of respond and feel good and want to be part of all of the different scenarios you can imagine would happen in a school setting. All of our dogs are not only what's called canine good citizen. That's kind of the initial test all of our dogs take. And then they're also certified with a specific therapy dog test. And that goes through all the scenarios that I kind of gave a few examples for. And then each dog is also recertified every 2 years. And so just kind of as professionals in our building, like our teachers have to make sure their certification and license is up to date within the state. Our dogs have similar requirements as well. And then also making sure they're physically healthy. So the vet signs off on things. We make sure that their vaccines are up to date. So not only the behavioral and emotional support of the animal, but also the physical is cared for as well.
And I think that partnership with the handlers really also emphasizes making sure that the dog has their own spot, that they have water and food and breaks. And if they don't appear comfortable, that people are paying attention to that. And so that part of the partnership we really emphasize as well, because we want to make sure that the dogs are comfortable and happy and working because they're getting that mutually beneficial piece.
Yeah, we actually teach like a professional development class with each of our new teams. And so we have that as part of their like requirements before they can start working with partnering with their dog in a school. And we go over all these things like making sure your dog has identification, so people know that they're a therapy dog. We make sure that kids with allergies have safe spaces within the school. Like there's a lot that goes into it. And I will say, I'm just going to brag on us a little. We do go like above and beyond in that. Just because we want it to be such a positive experience for everybody involved, including our animal partners and just everybody in the schools as well.
And really emphasizing that all the training that our dogs go through is with positive reinforcement. Kind of going back to that statement of our dogs should be choosing to do this work. All the certifications that are approved through our district are through organizations or trainers that utilize positive reinforcement training only. We never want to force our dogs into this. And so by helping teach them these skills and rewarding them consistently, that really builds that feeling of positivity in the interaction that they're going to be bringing into our buildings.
I also want to kind of brag on our handlers a little bit because we have how many teams now? Like
We're at 34.
34. Okay.
Wow.
So that's how many and more like in the works, but that's how many people are willing to commit to working with their dog, getting the certification, getting all the vet things in place, getting insurance in place, which can be really confusing because even some insurances that say they will insure canine therapy dogs then say, but, only if they don't behave in a bad way. And our handlers take on a lot of that cost and also the time and effort and making sure that they have a dog that's comfortable and happy and healthy. And that's a lot. And there are so many people who are willing to do that and take that on because I think they see the value on the other end of how well it really works to facilitate interactions with kids and learning skills and all the things that therapy dogs can do to support in our schools.
And speaking to the history of that, when Danny and I started this work in Douglas County School District, there were 3 teams. And it's grown with the support of Ellen and Stephanie and Bernadette in the mental health department, really seeing the benefit of it and providing just more opportunity to support teams coming in. So we started with 3 about 11 years ago. And like we said, we're at about 34 with more coming down the line because like Ellen said, schools are wanting this. And I have people coming to me all the time like, how can I get a dog in my building? We need this so bad. And so it's something that has been really exciting to see how it has grown. And we're seeing the need more and more. And just as a state, we're able to confidently say that our district has the biggest animal-assisted intervention program in the state. And we've been told by professionals in this field that we have the most sophisticated. And so it's been exciting to see how well supported and how we're doing it in a way that's research-based and ethical and really prioritize doing it well, not only for the schools that are utilizing it, but for the animals that are participating too.
As I'm listening to you explain all of this, the research-based piece, the ethical piece, the approaches that you take, I don't know, writing the manual, I guess, for what do you do in certain situations for this, that, and the other thing, and then training everybody. That's a lot. So like going clear back to when the idea came up, how long did it take to put all that together? And
so this actually was my capstone project in grad school, was developing implementation for school therapy dogs. And coming into this district, I had a certified therapy dog. I experienced it in my internship, and that was something I was really passionate about continuing. And there were 2 other programs that existed. And originally, the risk management department reached out to us and said, hey, we see how this could benefit, but we need there to be some guidelines because there wasn't really anything in place. It was very new at the time. People were, for lack of a better word, kind of going rogue with bringing animals in that maybe weren't well prepared for the role. And from the risk management lens, I could understand why that was starting to get pretty nerve-wracking. And so we got a couple people together, Danny, myself, and Brooke Patterson came together, and they kind of said, all right, develop something with us. And it just kind of kept rolling from there, where human resources joined us as well to make sure we were considering every single stakeholder that would experience this intervention. And so it just kind of continued to build from there and really started with making sure we had dogs in these roles that were well prepared and wanting to do the work. And I think that's something that we really prioritized to make sure we had certifications that were appropriate for a school setting. Because we could argue that schools are some of the hardest environments for therapy dogs to work. But yeah, so it really started from just wanting to make sure we were using programs in the right way and that they were safe. And it's been able to develop from there.
And it's probably important to note that a therapy dog is different from a service dog.
Yes.
And also different from an emotional support animal. So those are like some distinctions too. Like the training is different. The expectations are different.
Yeah. And that was some of what branched out of this program was the ADA department under Human Resources have a service animal policy for the district. And so that's kind of where we lived for a little bit because it made sense. We're just going to have all the dogs live here, right? And just make sure everything was kind of taken care of. And we really advocated to recognize that our service dogs are doing much different roles than our therapy dogs. And that's when we were able to start having the discussion with Stephanie and Ellen about how this is a social emotional intervention and how beautifully it would fit under our mental health department. And that's really where I think we started to see this shift and great opportunity to collect data on how these interventions are benefiting in so many different ways.
Right, because a service animal usually is kind of focused on one person, right? As opposed to a therapy dog needs to be focused on anybody that comes up to them, essentially, right? And so that's a whole different skill set for that dog.
Absolutely. And we've had to teach our kids about kind of like the differences in that as well, right? Because some of them see a dog in a vest and they're like, well, I can pet that dog. But we've actually had students with service dogs in the building and therapy dogs in the building. So we do some kind of like edification around that. We have like a whole presentation to teach about the differences in it because, it is service dogs are individual work and therapy dog is very much like kind of a group situation comparatively. So it's been a good thing for the kids to notice as well. And again, be able to like be advocates for that.
One thing that hit me as we were talking about this earlier about, they have to be good at walking down a hallway full of students and everything. And I'm thinking about the many, many teachers I've seen at the end of a day that are just fried from all the interaction and all the work it takes just dealing with literally hundreds of little humans or sometimes big humans, whatever they're dealing with, right? From your experiences as handlers, are your dogs kind of spent at the end of the day, or what's their reservoir like?
They're pretty tired by the end of the day. I mean, they're a little extra excited right now because Daphne and Betty don't get to work together very often. So this is a very exciting day, but usually when I get home from work, I walk Betty, not on days that she's here. She needs to go home and rest. And Laura spoke to this, like dogs have that empathy, right? Like they take on human emotions. They've literally evolved with us to understand our facial expressions, to understand our tone, to understand our body language. And so, and I'll speak to just my experience, especially in a school where kids have very high needs and very severe like mental health diagnoses. Like it is a lot for her to take on, but it's like if a kid is like crying and petting her, like she's great at it. She loves being able to be there. But by the end of the day, she needs to rest. She needs to kind of decompress. And that is something we talk about with our handlers too, is that like decompression time for your dog, either like during the workday and especially after, and making sure they're taken care of and kind of getting to act like a dog too, because they're not working all the time.
Yeah, we really emphasize with all of our teams to figure out what, like you said, that threshold is for each individual dog. Some dogs, 1 day a week is perfect for them. Others can work up to 5 days. And we really encourage our teams to know your dog, know what their signs are to show that they're done. And that's even day to day. We ask all of our teams to make sure they have those break spaces like Ellen referenced so they can take breaks throughout the day. Because, like you said, as staff, we're exhausted and they're the same. So, like, for example, Daphne works every other day. She gets her kind of recharge after each day and then is ready to go for the next. But it's each individual dog is different. And we talk a lot about how to prolong a dog's working life as long as you can. And really avoiding that burnout because that exists for our dogs too. So making sure we find that sweet spot.
Yeah, they should want to come to work every day. Like there was a day that Betty, I was like, all right, let's go to work. And I got her vest off and she did not get off the couch. She didn't want to come to work that day. So I didn't make her come that day. The next time we was ready to go to work, she jumped off. She was ready. But that was her communication of like, I don't want to do this today. And that was okay.
I was going to say, just like humans, I'm sure dogs all have different social batteries.
She needed a mental health day.
That's really fascinating. So of the 34 teams, are they mostly at elementary schools or middle schools or high schools? Do they do multiple schools? How does that work?
It's a complete variety. We're across the whole system, elementary through high school. And same thing with roles. It's across the system. And elementary through high school, we have dogs working in all areas.
And we have some schools with multiple dogs. And so that's also been a consideration. It's like, how are the dogs going to interact with each other? Should they all be there on the same day? Do we need to limit the number of dog teams in a school? some of those things we just cross the bridge when we get there, as we've gotten more and more teams.
And I think that's looking back, we never thought we'd get to the point of having to have the discussion as, is there a thing of too many dogs in a building? And so it is, we kind of leave that up to the schools to kind of figure out what those boundaries are. All of our dogs are expected when they're working to not interact. And that's another part of the certification, to work alongside another dog, but still make sure you're engaged in the task at hand, and in those interactions that they're there for. And so I can say that I know the schools that are working with multiple, Plum Creek is one of them. It's been working really well, and the dogs just start to kind of see each other as coworkers and move along with their day.
And we've also learned some things the hard way, like don't let your dog eat off the floor.
Yes. Yes. Yep. Or let your dog off leash and those types of things. And so it's over the years, what we started with has grown and changed so many different times with not only what we've learned, but what research has been telling us too.
Well, going back to the research piece too, I was going to ask about that too. You mentioned that what your capstone project was. Does that mean that there had not been a lot of that up to that point, or?
It was very minimal, because it's hard. How do you quantify the work that these dogs do? Because so much of it, you can look at it and see, wow, this is working because of what the student is just physically looking like within the interaction. But over the years, there has been a lot more. And like Danny mentioned, we have research now that shows just simply petting a dog releases oxytocin and dopamine and all those good, happy chemicals in our brains. And so that interaction, which we feel maybe is super simple, is something really impactful. And they're also showing that it benefits the dog in the same way. So that same research did some scans on dogs' brains and took blood samples and all of those other things. So that's where that mutually beneficial piece comes in. The dogs are experiencing these really positive things just as much as the humans are.
And there's a lot of research now that there wasn't before, that relationship is one of the most impactful pieces of any intervention and one of the biggest predictors of whether an intervention will succeed. And so clearly a dog relationship is also a very impactful relationship. May not be human-human, but sometimes it's even better or easier, or for a variety of different reasons.
I was going to say, it's probably easier to establish those types of relationships.
Yeah, and I think about that connection and how that ties to safety. Our students can feel safe in their school environment and then in turn want to also keep the school safe, if that makes sense. And so how we're able to continue to make all these connections, where really in summary, our dogs are, we've had many examples of literally saving lives and because a student feels safe with that one being in the building and they're able to support. Obviously, our goal is to reach those academic engagements and everything like that. But without that relationship, without that regulation, we're not able to reach that part of their brain. So this has been an amazing tool.
And a big part of that safety, too, is feeling like you belong in the community. And I think dogs help kids feel like they belong when sometimes they don't otherwise.
So many amazing things that these dogs could help with. That this is such a cool program to see and observe here. I want to be respectful of your time because I could ask and talk about dogs.
We could talk about it forever. We could talk forever.
Without obviously naming names or anything like that, do any of you have like really specific examples of where they really made a difference? I'm sure you probably got tons of them.
Yep.
Yeah, one of my favorites is I had a kid that anytime he would get really upset, he would elope. So he would leave the building. He would literally run away. And this kid was fast. We physically could not chase him. When Betty started, his instances of eloping went from about 5 a week to 1 a week to eventually none a week, because he knew that when he was here, he had Betty and he felt safe around her. It makes me emotional. This is a kid that, had been through the foster care system and had some really very rough stuff happen to him. And she actually have a little poster in my room about Betty's one of the reasons I'm safe at school or something like that, and I keep that as a reminder. But she just was this intense comfort to him. And we actually keep in touch and he asks about her and since he graduated, and just knowing that even, 3 years later, he still thinks about her and cares about her and credits her as one of the things that helped him be successful in school.
That is powerful.
Yeah, they really
Wow.
I think giving kind of examples, there's a great high school example that Danny just shared. I worked in a middle school for a long time with a dog, and I had a student that was specifically placed in our building. We had an affective needs program in the building because there was a dog in the building. The student had some pretty significant trauma that occurred on school grounds, and he would not even come into the parking lot. So my dog and I actually started by going on a walk up and down his street outside of his house. And then we went and met at the library, the local library, not the school library, because we weren't ready for that. And it built all the way into he was attending high school, no longer needed affective needs level programming. And I mean, that's a long story short, but it started from walking up and down the street because that's what felt safe. And he made a connection to the point of him being comfortable enough to step foot inside the building for an hour and then 2 hours. And we built from there. And he graduated high school and went to college and all of these things where we think about if the dog hadn't been there, would he ever have stepped foot? And I don't think so.
Yeah.
And so that's one that really sits with me. I think of one of our current elementary school teams has an SSN program. There was a student there when the dog came in the building. The student was incredibly afraid. And the parents expressed, we're really struggling with this out in the community even because he'll see a dog out at the park and run. He was eloping from the park. It became a pretty significant safety concern. And the parents were really requesting we need to work on this because it's affecting outside of school as well. And it started with the dog and the student writing letters to each other. And fast forward a year, and this dog is sitting in this child's lap, and the family has their own pet dog of their own. And I think about if that opportunity for that student never existed in school, where would they have been able to work on this? And so it's just amazing what we can do with this intervention that I can't compare to anything else. So it's been exciting to see. And like you said, we could go on for hours with the number of individual stories, but every single dog has kind of that magic moment, that one student that has really been life-changing.
I think it's really kind of only limited by people's creativity, but also knowing that we have to operate in a very ethical way to make sure that the intervention is feasible and safe, and that we're really paying attention to how to implement it so that it continues to benefit everybody.
And we do talk about it's not for every dog. We've had many teams, I know Danny can share a personal story with that too if we need to, but we've had many teams start the process and realize that their dog doesn't want to do the job, and that's okay. But it is a discussion to have of you go through the training process and your dog has that personality that it enjoys people. But when you get it into this role and into these environments, it brings out a lot of things that we're incredibly passionate about making sure the dog is ready and wants to do it. And so speaking of that ethical piece, that's really something that I think is the core of our program, is that we're having these animals that are really prepared and ready to do the job, and also handlers that know their dog and know how to take care of them through that process.
Which is why we do the professional development. Like, and I'll just speak to that again. Like, it is just because it seems like it's like simple, right? Like, quote unquote simple. You're bringing your dog. Kids like dogs. But knowing your dog, knowing the space, knowing the kids, knowing what they can handle, like even things like going through a fire drill, like, you know, we get like, we're on the list to be warned when those happen. But like in a real emergency, like she needs to be able to be prepared to handle that kind of a situation. And so there really is just so much that goes into it.
Do you want to talk at all, Danny, about your meetups and some of the things you practice when you guys get together?
This is, a special thing that we started implementing, I think, last year, maybe 2 years ago. But we try to do like a monthly meetup that we offer to all of the teams in the district. We do a lot of kind of like meeting up at Cabela's to do training just for that like dog-to-dog interaction, for that new environment. There's lots of smells at Cabela's. There's lots of big animals at Cabela's. You know, like there's a lot of stuff that happens there. And so it's a great space for that. We've also had Phil Tedeschi come in, who is like somebody that Laura and I have worked with at DU, and Laura continues to work with him. He's like the founder of the Institute for Human-Animal Connection at DU, which is like a very like groundbreaking kind of organization within animal-assisted therapy. He's come and spoken to us. We've had one of our trainers that we work with come in to work on just kind of like providing our dogs with choice and understanding that our dogs have autonomy and making sure they're getting that throughout the day and really thinking of them as sentient beings that have their own emotions, that have their own fears. They're not robots, they have their own stuff going on too. So just kind of continuing that like education process for our teams because as more research comes out, we can teach people more about it.
Then there's this whole cohort that gets to get together just like any of our other teacher groups or whatever for training and also just to kind of be kind of a big extended family then for that too.
And a resource too. It's like if they have a question, like they know that they have people that they can reach out to be like, hey, this is happening. How can I handle the situation?
For animal-assisted interventions in the district, is it strictly dogs right now, or do you have other animals, or?
It is strictly dogs right now. I think the research is probably the most broad with dogs. Dogs are one of the only other beings that understand human emotion based on what the research is showing us. But out in the world, outside of the school setting, equine assisted therapy is incredibly strong right now. Obviously, it'd be really hard to bring a horse into the school. Probably not going to get that approved yet.
Mini horses, maybe.
Maybe mini horses. But I mean, Danny and I can speak to our experience at the University of Denver's program. We did classes on small animals. Rats are an incredibly empathetic and trainable rodent. And pigs are a really strong one as well. But there are so many different animals that expand out into the world of AAI. And right now, I think dogs are probably the most common one you see because of just how they already live with us and experience these things. And so that's the focus right now. But I'm open to more.
Yeah, I got a kitten and I was hoping she was going to be our first district therapy cat, but she doesn't travel well. So we weren't able to make that happen. But those do exist too.
Cats aren't super known for their empathy.
You have to be really like you're social, right? It's a very, very social job. And a lot of cats, like they have their person, but a lot of dogs, they're like every person is their person, especially, the ones we work with.
Exactly. How do people volunteer or sign up to have their dogs and also be the handlers that do this work then? How does that come about?
I think a lot of this has grown from seeing other people do it, and then they find their way to our committee. And so we have the three of us here and then three other members of our committee that support that process. And it starts with setting up a consultation with myself or other members to just kind of see what's your interest. Where are you starting? Some people reach out to us and say, I don't even have a dog yet, but I want to do this. How do I do this? And we have different resources we can connect people to. The district has a site that has all of our contact information. We have our implementation guide that literally gives a checklist for people to follow that can get them all the way into the first day of working with their dog. But ultimately, we are here to support that process from beginning to end and throughout the dog's working career.
Wow, fascinating. This is such a cool program.
Thank you.
The fact that it's very rare and you're the state leader as well. Congratulations and
Thank you.
Kudos to all of you for getting that done.
Yeah, it's been a great collaboration to see how everything has come together.
It's been a huge passion project for you and Danny, and it's nice that it's been able to grow and that we've been able to support it as a district leadership team as well.
That's been a game changer, I will say. Just having Stephanie and Ellen involved and just like really being champions for the program has just like that's helped it grow, is to have like the district support, seeing what a positive intervention it is. And honestly, it's like, it's a fairly inexpensive one, right? They're cheaper than a staff member, or hiring another social worker, and cuter, to be honest. So
True.
Ellen, this is the second in our short podcast series so far that we focused on some aspects of mental health. We had Dr. Crawford on an earlier episode talking about the internship program that we have and how much of a vanguard, a leader in the field that the district is in that regard. And then this, can you just brag a little bit about your team and the forward thinking and the innovation and the great work that's being done for the sake of our kids.
Yeah, I think comparatively speaking to other districts, it's a pretty small mental health leadership team. There's 3 of us, and we just added our 3rd person a couple years ago. So it's really been like trying to champion things that are meaningful. And also, to be honest, strong interns mean that you hopefully are growing your own colleagues for the future. And knowing that the therapy dog program is so valuable to schools. I mean, in a perfect world, we'd have a therapy dog coordinator. And, right now, everybody who's working on the committee is doing lots and lots of other things. But it really is something that's easy to be passionate about. And we've had other districts come to us for advice, and there's often barriers that maybe they can get over, maybe they can't in their own district. But my hope is that this will continue to grow, because I do think it provides a lot of value.
I think it's important to note that this intervention isn't for everyone. Just as we work through all different scenarios with students, it doesn't work for 100%. Not everyone's an animal person, staff and students. And so we very much recognize that as we're talking about all these really exciting stories of how amazingly it's worked in so many ways, it's not for everybody, and that's okay. And I think that's one thing we really emphasize with our teams as well, and why it's important for our dogs to have the training they do. They're not going to just run around and go up to anyone they want. It's not going to be this dog running up and down the hallway and running into all the classrooms that they want to, which I think sometimes when we started, that I think is what people were picturing, and really having to emphasize that this is very intentional, and we're very focused on making sure we're beneficial to everyone we discuss, but also to the people that may not benefit from that interaction, that we respect that, whether it be fears or allergies or just disinterest. And in referencing other districts haven't wanted to bring the intervention in. And you think of the risks and everything that comes with it. Yeah. But I can say I think our team has done a really good job of focusing on how much we can mitigate that through how we're preparing our teams for this role. And speaking of the conversation around interns, we've had people reach out to Douglas County School District and want to work here because they want to work with a dog and they know our program is so strong. So I think it's benefiting just the ongoing professionals that we bring in as well, which has been an exciting, unexpected feature.
The passion and the innovation and the respect for whatever needs to be done to help each and every individual student is so impressive to see from our group here. So thank you very much. I want to keep talking because I want to respect Daphne and Betty. They've been sitting here so good for this whole time. I was like, we better let them up and out at some point.
Betty's sneezing.
It's so exciting when your best friend is at work and you don't normally get to work with your best friend. That's just like humans, right? Yeah, I know. I'm like, Laura's here. I love it.
That's great. That is so cool. Thank you all so much for your time. Thank you for explaining all this to us and sharing this with the larger community. Hopefully the program can just keep growing and growing and helping the kids that will benefit from this. And this has just I'm going to walk around with a grin on my face for the rest of the day. This is so cool. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah. Anytime we get to talk about it is really great.
Bet they need us for a part 2. Like, we're around.
Thanks for listening to DCSD Notebook from Douglas County School District, which serves more than 60,000 students, making it the 3rd largest public school district in Colorado. To find out more, visit dcsdk12.org. And make sure to hit the follow button in your favorite podcast app so you can get every new episode, as well as Parent University once a month, where we hear from experts within the district and from the larger community, talking about timely, relevant issues that parents face in our complex world.